Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, while Bitcoin is still playing out the short-term warning signal, we are seeing the US stock market gap towards the upside, which we need to pay attention to because this can affect the crypto market. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside my exact Bitcoin trading strategy, and of course, Ethereum, which is showing some weakness in the short term, while the price of XRP is now starting to officially break out above this very important line of resistance. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, taking a look at the US stock market, this right here is the S&P 500 index on the daily time frame, and we could see that in the pre-market today, we actually saw a major pump before the market opened, creating a gap towards the upside. And so obviously this means that bullish price action has already played out, but usually the stock market tends to fill these gaps. Now, of course, not all the time. For example, we still have a gap right here that we have not filled at all in the US stock market, in the S&P 500 index. But a lot of these gaps, you can see most of the time we come back up to actually fill the gaps, or come back down to fill the gaps in these situations, as we could see. And so if, for example, we do end up seeing a slight pullback in the stock market, just to retrace this gap right here to fill the gap and then ultimately continue the bullish relief, this reversal that we're seeing in the stock market, we could possibly see something similar in the crypto market. And so just for an example, of course, not guaranteed, but just an example of what that would look like for, let's just say, the price of Bitcoin, we may end up seeing just a short-term slowdown, some slight sideways or slight bearish price action, kind of like this, and then maybe a continued pump later on in that example. But clearly, despite seeing short-term bullish and bearish moves here and there, of course, the larger momentum is clearly bullish for the stock market, and of course, Bitcoin and the crypto market, clearly the momentum is very much bullish. And if we're taking a look at this 4-day Bitcoin price chart, of course, right now the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, so not much has changed on this chart over the last one day. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, at least for now, we have this bearish divergence, but we're getting close to invalidating the bearish divergence with a new higher high in the price in the candle closes here. So if that happens, at least temporarily, that would invalidate the bearish divergence. And in order to completely, permanently invalidate the bearish divergence, we need to ideally form a higher high in the RSI, because while the RSI is still sitting in lower highs, there's still that possibility of another bearish divergence forming later on. And so we still need to see that here in the weekly RSI ideally. But with that being said, taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart right here, and over the last one day, of course, we've seen that weekly candle close, and we've now officially confirmed just a slight bullish crossover in the weekly Bitcoin MACD, and we're continuing this so far with this new weekly candle. And simply based on the last couple of times we've seen a bullish crossover in the weekly Bitcoin MACD, both of these previous occurrences right here, we've seen much more bullish price action, much more bullish momentum for the price of Bitcoin following over the next few weeks or months. And so, of course, it doesn't move in a straight line. Yes, we can see slight little pullbacks here and there. So, for example, if we see one red day, of course, that doesn't mean that this is completely wrong, but overall, the momentum, the trend is pointing in the bullish direction. And with that being said, taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, obviously right now we're continuing that bullish breakout well above this previous significant area of resistance in between 96,000 to 98,000. So I would expect a lot of support in that region if we were to actually get back there. And as for the next resistance to watch out for, I'll be focusing on approximately 106,000, close to 106,000, which is very close to where we've just gone recently, and obviously started to struggle around that 106k level approximately. And then above 106k, of course, I'll mainly be just targeting the all-time highs at roughly 108 to 109,000, give or take. And then, of course, after that, we're simply in new all-time record highs. And also pointing out a possible inverse head and shoulders pattern here. If we were to, for example, see a rejection around these highs, come back to, let's just say, retest this previous resistance right here to flip it into new support. In that situation, once again, there's a possible inverse head and shoulders pattern. Now, typically an inverse head and shoulders pattern is more of a bullish reversal pattern that we see after a pullback like this, for example. But with that being said, if this continues to form and if it ultimately confirms, which right now it has not done, but if it confirms and then breaks out into new all-time highs, it can play out as a self-fulfilling prophecy if a lot of traders are basically trading on this pattern. So for example, if a bunch of traders are pumping into long positions at the breakout here, that can of course pump the price of Bitcoin as if the pattern is playing out normally here. But obviously, in order to actually confirm that possible inverse head and shoulders pattern, we would need to see first a further pullback and then a bounce and then a breakout. But either way, of course, if we break out into new all-time highs, whether or not we see the pullback first, that will also clearly be a bullish signal by itself. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, right now the price of Bitcoin is potentially coming in for a retest of this previous Fibonacci level of resistance, the 78.6% Fibonacci level, which is sitting at just above 102,000. So expect some support around there. And if we're taking a look at this daily time frame, of course, right now we're still sitting in overbought territories in the daily Bitcoin RSI. So as I've already been saying over the last few days here in the short term, I've been saying just expect a short-term cool-off as a very likely scenario for the next few days or so. And what I mean by a short-term cool-off is either a sideways consolidation or maybe just a slight pullback. So a bit of a break from all of the bullish price action here, maybe just for a few days, maybe a week, that sort of time frame. And so obviously, at least in the immediate short term, that is already perfectly playing out exactly as predicted. And if we're taking a look at this 2-hour Bitcoin price chart, obviously right now the price of Bitcoin is continuing to play out this short-term bearish divergence just on the 2-hour time frame, exactly as I've been predicting over the last 1 to 2 days. Because obviously, if you watched my last 1 to 2 videos here on the channel, you'll know that in those last 2 videos over the last couple of days, I've been saying it's extremely likely that over the next few days, we're going to see either some choppy sideways price action, so a sideways consolidation like this, or potentially a bit of a pullback coming soon, just in the short term, not necessarily a major crash or a bearish reversal on the larger time frames, just a short-term cool-off, maybe a slight pullback for a few days, maybe a week, that sort of time frame. And then ultimately, we're likely going to continue the bullish momentum, the bullish trend towards the upside, because that's what these larger charts are currently saying. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, as I've recorded in this video, the price of Bitcoin is currently wiping out some downside liquidity at roughly around 102.8k. And below that, we have a little bit more liquidity towards the downside at around 102,000. So of course, this is quite likely the price could pull back down towards some of those short-term levels here in order to wipe out some of the late over-leveraged long positions that entered around the highs. And as for other liquidity to watch out for, we do have some liquidity sitting at close to 106,000 as well. But remember, just expect a bit of a short-term pullback, a slight little cool-off for the next few days as the most likely scenario, exactly as I've already been saying over the last couple of days, once again here on the channel. And so with all of that being said, what is my exact Bitcoin trading strategy? And well, of course, if you've been following my channel over the last few weeks, I've been detailing very specifically, very transparently, this exact Bitcoin trading strategy in these videos. And over the last one day, I've really made no new changes to this position, but I said it in my last video just yesterday, right around these highs at around 104k to 105k, I said I took profits out of this long position. I just slightly reduced the size of the trade. And that was due to a few different factors pointing towards this short-term cool-off that is likely going to come next. So of course, that is what I did yesterday. And since yesterday, I've made no new changes. So I previously took a small amount of profits, moved my stop loss closer into profits here, but once again, no new changes. So right now I'm still overall long on the price of Bitcoin, because overall I am still bullish on the price of Bitcoin in terms of the larger momentum here recovering into all-time highs. Just don't be surprised if in the next few days we see a short-term cool-off in the meantime. And so that is my exact expectations and exact trading strategy for the price of Bitcoin. And once again, if you want to take these trades for yourself, of course, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking this trade right here over on 2bit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses. Like for example, up to $50,000 you can claim onto your account simply just by trading crypto using the link below this video. But if you're not one of these larger traders here, you can also get a $30 sign up bonus and also a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT. So for example, if you deposit $1,000, you get a $200 bonus, but only if you use that link. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want 2bit as an exchange, there's also BTNex as another exchange out there that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to BTNex below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here, where you can also claim some massive bonuses. Like for example, up to $35,000 you can actually claim onto your account just by trading crypto using the link below this video to BTNex. But if you're not one of these larger traders, you can also get some deposit bonuses. Like for example, if you deposit just $100, you get a $20 bonus. And if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus onto your BTNex account, but only if you use that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, the first and second link below this video. And in case you're wondering, BTNex is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a quick look at Ethereum on this weekly time frame, and really over the last one day, not a lot has changed other than the fact that we've now seen a weekly candle close pretty much exactly at 2,500, almost just above 2,500, which is obviously some bullish price structure finally starting to form on the much larger timeframes here, because we're getting back above a very important level on the price chart, which was this previous significant support and was also previous significant resistance right here, and that was sitting at roughly around 2.3k. And so I'd now expect a lot of support at give or take 2.3k if we were to see a pullback here. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, right now we do have this 50% retracement level acting as support at just underneath 2.4k and significant support at around 2.1k. And in the immediate short term, we could also find some short-term support at roughly 2,500 here. But the next resistance to watch out for, the next significant area of resistance, is this golden pocket area of resistance, also based on previous resistance in the price, and that's sitting in between around 2.7k to 2.8k. So expect a lot of struggle around there as the most likely scenario. But once we can finally see a confirmed breakout above 2.8k, of course that would be extremely bullish for Ethereum, and in that situation would likely see a continued relief up towards this next Fibonacci level, which is sitting at around 3250, so in between around 3.2k to 3.3k. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, taking a look at the 2-hour time frame, we can see right now the price of ETH is perfectly playing out this bearish divergence, just a short-term bearish divergence that I warned about in my last video here on the channel. So obviously, as I said yesterday, we're most likely going to see either a bit of a sideways consolidation, so choppy sideways price action like this, or potentially a slight little pullback as the most common outcomes, the most likely outcomes from a bearish divergence. And of course, already for the last one day, we've been exactly playing this out as predicted. And so in other words, just expect a bit of a short-term break from all of the bullish price action. So essentially, don't necessarily expect another massive pump like what we saw over the last few days right here, at least not straight away. Of course, after a little bit of a cool off, it is possible we can ultimately see another major pump, but just for the next few days or so, once again, just in the short term, expect a bit of a break from all of the bullish price action here. And if we're taking a look at Solana on the 3-day time frame, of course, right now Solana is continuing to play out the massive bullish divergence on the 3-day chart, as I've been saying since all the way back down here. So like I've been saying since much lower prices, expect a continued bullish relief for Solana as one of the most common outcomes from a bullish divergence. So obviously that's still perfectly playing out as predicted. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, right now the price of Solana is basically just trading between a bit of support and resistance. So first of all, we have this 50% retracement level acting as support at around 167 to 168. We have a bit of short-term resistance at around 179 to 180 based on these highs right here. And above 180, the next significant area of resistance is this golden pocket area of resistance sitting in between around 191 to 200. And above that area, I'll be targeting around 230. But in the immediate short term, especially if Bitcoin and Ethereum play out some short-term cool-offs, that could likely influence the price of Solana just in the short term, once again, with a slight little slowdown, helping to reset this RSI back towards more neutral levels on the daily time frame, because right now we're technically overbought, at least on the daily time frame. So of course, a short-term cool-off is actually healthy for the price of Solana, very good for the bullish trend, because that can give us more room towards the upside later on. But overall, of course, the larger trend, momentum, and price structure is clearly bullish right now, as I've already been saying for a while now on the channel. Basically, ever since we confirmed this higher high, that was the first significant change in the price structure from this previous bearish trend into a new bullish trend. So, of course, since then, this has been perfectly playing out as predicted. But all I'm saying is just don't expect the price to move in a straight line. Of course, it is very normal to see little slowdowns here and there during a bullish trend. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the 3-day time frame, like I've already been saying over the last couple of days, we've already reached the end of this bearish divergence that has been playing out for months now, as we can see, because obviously since pretty much the beginning of this year, back in January, I've been warning about this significant bearish divergence influencing the price of XRP, and that's been perfectly playing out until basically just now. And over the last few days, as I've been saying over the last few days here on the channel, we're now seeing a breakout in the 3-day XRP RSI above these previous highs, meaning the invalidation and the end of this previous bearish divergence. And so this means we can now finally expect more bullish momentum continuing to play out for the price of XRP rather than a lack in bullish momentum. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, we are now starting to attempt a major breakout above a very important line of resistance, which is sitting at around $2.45, $2.46, right around there. But technically speaking, we still need to confirm a daily candle close above this line of resistance in order to actually confirm the breakout. So obviously for now, this is not yet confirmed, but if we confirm the daily candle close above around $2.46 ideally, and even better if we confirm a breakout above this high, which is sitting at roughly around $2.58, $2.59, then in that situation, that would be extremely bullish for XRP, and that would be a massive bullish trend reversal signal. So not just expecting a little short-term bullish relief, a short-term pump, but actually expecting a continued bullish trend that could likely last over weeks, if not months. And so it's very possible that if we first confirm this breakout, the bullish trends that follows could possibly take us towards all-time highs for the price of XRP in the coming weeks or months as a likely scenario. But of course, along that journey, we'll likely find some resistance along the way around these previous highs, like for example, at roughly around 277, close to 280, acting as resistance, more resistance at around 295, and significant resistance at around 315, and also at around 330. And if we're taking a quick look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, right now Chainlink is continuing to run into this previous significant level of resistance right here, which is still acting as resistance in the short term, and that's sitting at around 1750 to 1760. So like I've been saying since before we saw this latest perfect rejection, expect the price to reject and struggle at this exact level. But once we can finally see a breakout beyond around 1750 to 1760, in that situation, expect a continued bullish move up towards around $20 as the most likely scenario. That is what I expect moving forward once we first confirm a breakout above 1750 to 1760. But in the meantime, until we confirm that breakout, of course, in the shorter term, expect a bit of a struggle before we can see a breakout. And if we were to see another rejection from this resistance, in that situation, we have a lot of support in this area on the price chart, sitting in between around 1490 to 1550. And also keep in mind that we have just reached overbought on the daily Chainlink RSI, meaning it's likely we could see just a short-term cool-off in order to help to reset the RSI, which can give us more room towards the upside later on in this bullish trend, this new bullish trend. And so those are my expectations moving forward. Those are my exact predictions and all of the important levels to watch out for and my exact trading strategy. And as always, if you want to take these trades for yourself to make a lot of easy profits like what I'm doing right now, make sure to check out those exchanges, links below this video, to claim those extra bonuses that you can only claim using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can take these trades for yourself to make a lot of easy money in crypto like what I'm doing right now with my own money, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.